has it already been 4 years since Sonic Mania came out? Like, seriously, where's the time gone these past 4 years? It feels just like yesterday we were watching that 25th anniversary party for Sonic, waiting to see what the next big Sonic games would be. And on that day, we got reveals of Sonic Mania and Sonic Forces. And funny enough, I remember coming out of that event being more excited for Sonic Forces than I was for Sonic Mania.
Dumbass! You dumbass! You're a dumbass! Such a dumbass!
While one of those games turned out to be great, the other turned out to be Sonic Forces. Sonic Mania looked like a great 2D platformer and all, but after playing through the classics countless times and Sonic 4, I was very skeptical of what another 2D Sonic game would be like. However, as the trailers came out, I got more excited for Mania, and that excitement would grow more and more and more as the game would get shown more until we got closer to release date. With fun-looking gameplay, returns to my favorite classic levels like Chemical Plant and stuff, playable Tails and Knuckles, you know, what could possibly go wrong? And this is the part of this story where you expect me to say something that went miserably wrong. Funny enough, nothing did. Sonic Mania released on August 15th of 2017 and is now regarded as one of the greatest Sonic games of all time, currently sitting as the highest rated Sonic game in the series. The question, though, well, you know, from the title and probably what you're thinking is, how does this game hold up 4 years later, and does it still maintain that sweet bit of blast processing goodness as the other classic games? Yes. The answer is yes. This game is absolutely amazing. Roll credits. The plot to Sonic Mania is pretty simple. It's a lot like the classic Sonic games. So the game begins with Sonic and Tails hitting the Angel Island zone, kind of like how they do in Sonic 3, and they encounter some Eggman robots that have this giant crane hand, like the claw from Toy Story, that ends up pulling out this giant stone in the middle of the ground, and it shines because it's purple and it's cool, and it sends our heroes back to the Green Hill Zone. From here on out, Sonic and friends are going to have to travel through the Green Hill Zone, and later on, they're actually going to encounter the Death Egg robot. And this is really cool, because I remember when the game got leaked, seeing the Death Egg robot in Green Hill Zone was such a cool thing to me, because, for those who don't know, the Death Egg robot is the final boss of Sonic 2, and seeing a final boss in a first level is actually incredible, and it's something I want more games to do, because it's really cool. However, after a quick and much easier face-off with the Death Egg robot, we're actually going to run into the new enemies for this game, the Hard-Boiled Heavies. More on them later on. After we see them, we're actually transported to the Chemical Plant Zone. That's right, folks, we got some time travel shenanigans going on here. However, for those unaware, Sonic Mania is not just the levels, as there actually are quite a few new levels in the game, such as Studiopolis Zone, Plant Garden Zone, and more. In Chemical Plant, you're actually going to face off against Eggman, and you're going to do a pretty neat little fight where you're basically playing the Mean Bean Machine game from the Sega Genesis, but it's actually just Puyo Puyo with Eggman. This is a really fun fight. I really like this fight a lot, and it's just funny to play Puyo Puyo in a Sonic game. I really like it a lot. However, later on throughout the game, actually in Studiopolis Zone, when you get there, you're actually going to face off with the Hard-Boiled Heavies, or at least one of them. These guys are actually pretty cool, and I like them a lot. I think they're cool little gimmick fights because you're going to fight one of these in almost every single zone, and I like them because it's something different compared to just a regular doing Eggman every, zone. And they have nice little personalities for as nice as personalities can get with a 2D Sonic game without much of a story. They're really neat and I like them a lot. So, like, for example, there's one I really like, such as this guy who rides a Motobug in Lava Reef Zone, and you have to hit him to, like, beat him, and that's really cool, and you do other stuff like fighting a ninja in Press Garden Zone, who actually can't hurt you, he'll freeze you and stuff, and throw, like the starfish enemies from Metropolis Zone at you, and they're really cool, I like them a lot. After going through 11 of the zones, you will reach the final level in the Titanic Monarch Zone. This is Eggman's big base of operations, and after a pretty lengthy level, you're actually going to face off with Eggman in a kind of a meh fight. But if you collect the 7 Chaos Emeralds, you'll actually face off against not just Eggman, but the leader of the Hard-Boiled Heavies, the Heavy King. After a pretty quick but really good battle with really good music, Sonic's going to be teleported to a much worse dimension. And that's pretty much the abridged version of Sonic Mania's plot. This plot would continue in Sonic Forces, but that's for another day. It definitely has a lot more plot, I think, compared to the classic games, which is nice, but I do think 3 and K does its plot a bit better, and to explain that, some not backstory, but more diving into that, for a Sega Genesis game, Sonic 3 and Knuckles tells a pretty decent story, because it feels like a much grander scale, and that's through how the levels transition, and it's always building up to, like, what is Knuckles doing, what is Eggman doing, and until you get to Launch Base, is it Launch Base? I don't know. Launch Base Zone, and you see the Death Egg rise up, and that's a really cool, like, ending for the Sonic 3 portion, and then you go into 3 and K. Mania doesn't really have that, and to me, Mania just kind of feels like this is just a reason for us to go through old levels, which is fine. It's a classic Sonic game, that's what it's trying to do. I'm not going to knock points off it for it, but I do prefer how Sonic 3 and Knuckles tells its story. The original game, when it first came out, didn't really have many stage transitions. Thankfully, they would get patched in later on to make the story feel a lot more flow better, I guess. Like I said, this is really not a big deal in the grand scheme of things, because it's a classic Sonic game. You're playing classic Sonic to run fast and bop on enemies and hit Eggman. So, story-wise, for what it is, it's pretty passable for a classic Sonic game. Sonic Mania plays pretty similar to the classic games, with a few minor changes. The first major change being the drop dash for Sonic. With the drop dash, you can jump in the air and then immediately drop down to a spin dash. This new mechanic can be something that I think takes admittedly quite a bit to get used to, but once you master this, it's a really great tool for trying to speed through the levels a lot quicker, or just kind of save yourself from potentially hitting an enemy. One of my pet peeves, admittedly, actually, with Sonic Mania, and kind of the series in general, is I feel like something Sonic 3 introduced was the Insta-Shield, and that is unfortunately not a part of Sonic's moveset in the main game. You can unlock it later on, but, you know, it's not a big deal, but I do think the Insta-Shield is kind of missed. Sonic does feel great to control in this game, though, and he feels just like he did kind of in the classics, more so the iPhone ports of Sonic 1 and 2, which a lot of people tend to prefer now, over the original games when compared to something like a Sonic 4 and Generations, where in those games Sonic is definitely not as mobile. I think if you try to go down a slope or rolling a ball down a hill, it's not going to work as well in 4 due to its weird physics. And Generations, while I think is closer to that, still isn't as top tier as, let's say, a Mania. So Sonic feels a lot better, and I think a big part of that is due to the drop dash, because you can kind of use that quite a bit and get a nice bit of speed going, and like I brought up earlier, you can speed through levels a lot faster, and that's a really cool thing about Mania. Besides that, he's not very different compared to how he controls in the regular classic games. It's really just the drop dash, and that same thing applies to Tails and Knuckles, as they play very similar to their Sonic 3 styles. They control great, and they're both fun to play with, but if you've played with them before, they're still fun. Tails can still fly for a specific amount of time, and eventually he'll lose the ability to fly for a short amount of time. The same applies when he's underwater, where he'll do like a cute little doggy paddle, which I think is really cute. Knuckles is the exact same as well, where Knuckles can glide. He's definitely slower than Sonic and Tails, but that gliding helps, and it makes him, I think, kind of more of the hard mode, I think, for Mania, like kind of like how he was in 3 and K. And that fits more with his levels and boss fights, because in this game, Knuckles has his own kind of different story, where he has different level designs that he has to go through, like in Sonic 3 and K. So it's a really fun time to play as Knuckles, I think, in Mania. Where Sonic Mania gets interesting, though, I think, is in its DLC characters in the Sonic Mania Plus expansion, with Mighty the Armadillo and Ray the Flying Squirrel. To describe Mighty, the best comparison I can think of is kind of the easy mode of Sonic Mania. So, while that's technically Tails, Mighty is probably the second easiest. So with Mighty, you basically have an automatic attack that, with the press of a button, will throw Mighty down to the ground while he's in the midair. Kind of like the drop dash, but he's just going to go right to the ground a lot faster. This can come in handy for dealing with badniks and bosses. However, a very interesting point of playing as Mighty is his red armadillo shell. With this, you basically cannot get hurt by spikes, something none of the other characters actually get away with. And I think this is what makes Mighty one of my favorite characters to play as if I just want to kill a few minutes, as I find it really fun to speed through the levels with him, although you know, Mighty's just really cool too, so that's kind of why I like him. Ray the Flying Squirrel, on the other hand, is one that I think it take quite a bit of time to master, but once you master Ray, he's very broken, I guess. So if you've ever played this really niche indie game by the name of Super Mario World, then you likely have an idea of how you play as Ray the Flying Squirrel. Ray's basically the cape power from Super Mario World, but in the form of a flying squirrel, if that makes sense. Even though there's a flying squirrel power-up in New Super Mario Bros. U, so that doesn't really work anymore, but you know what I'm trying to say. Ray is quite fun, but he's a character who I think is more fun if you're used to this game already, so like the more you play it as Ray, you'll get better and better, obviously, and he can be really good. So, for example, the fun part of playing with Ray is just seeing how much of the level you can fly through. Like I brought up earlier, his gameplay style is really similar to that of the Super Cape in Super Mario World, so like you can literally just bypass bunches of levels. Not as much, I'd actually say it's more broken than Tails is Flying, because the thing with Tails is Flying is there's a limit to the amount of time you can go with Tails is Flying. Ray can just go through levels like it's no one's business if you get good with him, but he's really fun to play with, I think, and he's one who I eventually want to really master, and just do like a full playthrough of Ray and see how much I can break through the levels of the game. Sonic Mania overall is a very fun game, though, in terms of the gameplay department. It controls much better in terms of physics compared to something like Sonic 4 Generations, and it just feels more like a classic Sonic game, which I think to those who haven't played the classics won't seem like that big of a deal, but for me that is, because it's just, it makes it so much faster to go through levels, and it feels so good to play this game. I can't really explain it in a great way without you just trying it, admittedly, but it just feels right, if I can kind of force that into your head. With the new additions and new characters from the Plus DLC, this Sonic game really has it all. Fun characters, new gameplay styles make Mania a really fun game. However, there's a few crucial points I haven't brought up yet, and those being the special zones, or special stages even. The special stages have never admittedly been my cup of tea in the series. I find a lot of them pretty annoying, and honestly, I just prefer going to the final boss once you beat all the levels, as probably as petty as that sounds. Thankfully, though, the Mania special stages aren't awful. Are they good? Nah, not really, but they're much better than the previous classic games. So, the whole point of the special stages in Mania is chasing after a UFO that's holding the Chaos Emerald. You're going to end up collecting spheres in order to speed up and just kind of see how fast you can go, but you also need to collect rings in order to stay in the special stage. These aren't offensive or anything, but I just don't find them incredibly fun. They're just kind of okay, and none of them are particularly hard. I think it's until Special Stage 4 or 6, I don't remember off the top of my head. That one can be quite difficult, but for the most part, they're not hard. A really cool thing I like about them, though, is that the graphics style for these special stages very much resemble like a Sonic, like, Saturn type of game, I guess. So, Sonic for the sake of Saturn, let's say like a Sonic Jam or something like that, or even the special stages from Sonic 3D Blast for the Sega Saturn. The Blue Sphere special stages also return from Sonic 3 and K, but they're not for the Chaos Emeralds in this game. No, they're more used for, like, basically to collect medals. So these medals are used more for extra stuff, such as unlocking Super Peel from Sonic CD, the Insta-Shield from Sonic 3 and K, and kind of more stuff with that. These are always my favorite special stages from the classic game, so it's nice to see them return, compared to something like seeing the half-pipe again for the 1,000th time, because it's been beaten to death. But overall, I just don't like special stages in these games. They've never been my thing. I just want to go to the final level and play as Super Sonic, because that's what I like. However, in the end, it is worth it, though, because the final level of this game is very fun. It's very short, but it's one of my favorite final bosses in any of like the 2D Sonic games. The levels, though, for Mania are great. A large majority of the levels are from previous games to bank on that sweet, sweet nostalgia, obviously. But thankfully, with the Act 2s, they usually do something new with the levels. Take, for example, how Chemical Plant Zone. You're running through more of the chemical plant, you're dealing more with the chemicals and using them to either jump higher. With the green Mega Mac, or with the blue Mega Mac, it'll hurt you. And I like that. It's a really cool gimmick for a level. And that's not just Chemical Plant Zone, either. Oil Ocean Zone has these ghosts returning from Sandopolis, but they're not really ghosts. They're like, I don't know, they're more like bad climate change demons, I don't know. And they're really cool, they'll attack you. You have to jump on the levers and pull them down, kind of like you do with Sandopolis to stop the ghosts from Sonic 3. And Hydro City has stuff like the gondolas that you can ride on, and a lot more. And I really like that. And a little neat touch that I want to bring up, that unfortunately is no longer in Sonic Mania, is that in the Hydro City Zone, there's a thing where you get grabbed by these hands, and they'll speed you up and they'll throw you, basically, and you'll go real fast. In the original game of it, they actually had Video Game Donkey in that portion when he would make a noise, when he'd do like the yeah! And I love that. Like I brought up, though, Sonic Mania is not just old levels, as we have a lot of new levels as well. Stages like Studiopolis Zone, Press Gardens, Mirage Saloon are all great, and they're really, really fun to play through. And a neat thing about Mirage Saloon Zone is that if you actually play as Knuckles, he's going to have his own very different level design compared to the other 4 characters. And this is just the main game we're talking about. Like, I've already been kind of hyping up Sonic Mania as it is, but it's really good in terms of the gameplay part. There's a lot to keep you coming back, as you can play as Sonic and, you know, Tails and Knuckles and Mighty and Ray. You got 5 characters there, and none of the classic games had that. Obviously, the Advanced series would have that, but not like the classics. And they're all fun to play with, and a lot of them have good reasons to come back. But the really cool thing is, when the DLC came out, we got Encore Mode. With the Mania Plus DLC, we obviously get a new mode, an Encore Mode. And Encore Mode is alright, but it's not something I come back to a lot. So I'm going to make a comparison here that may not make a lot of sense, but imagine Sonic Heroes, but you're using every character and it's 2D. Okay, it's nothing like Sonic Heroes because this game is actually good, but hear me out here. In Encore Mode, you're using every single character playing through the same levels with a few distinct changes. Mainly the backgrounds are kind of different, but they're really pretty, so I like them for that. But I want to mention it because they are very pretty. If a character dies, you will immediately switch to the next character. So let's say if you're playing as Sonic, you're immediately going to jump to, like, Ray. And it's a neat little mode, but I don't think it's worth the full DLC, admittedly. And if you want to play as Mighty and Ray, you do have to buy the Mania Plus DLC, and that's immediately to me a big reason why I wanted the Mania Plus DLC. And if you can buy the Mania Plus DLC, I recommend getting that. You can obviously get the regular game for like $20 now. It's not a bad mode by any means, and it always gives you more content, and it actually fixes quite a few things. So, for example, we could say that it fixes a few bosses. So, for example, one thing about Mania that got changed as future patches came along and the Mania Plus DLC came along is that in the original game, you have a boss fight where a wall is chasing you. And that's changed later on, where a giant metal Sonic will chase you. And that's not the Mania Plus DLC, that's something I added later on, but Mania Plus does fix quite a few things like that. And if I immediately have to give one thing about Mania I don't like, it is the bosses. But however, Sonic Mania is an absolute gem, folks. Just a great game, absolute gem, a gems collection even.
Let's get it on!
What can I say about the soundtrack for Sonic Mania? Like, everyone and their grandma has listened to the soundtrack, I feel like, and everyone knows that's great. With lots of remixes from the classic games and new tunes like Studiopolis and Press Garden, there's a lot to love here. Have a quick listen to some of these great songs. The soundtrack is really amazing. It's really one of my favorite soundtracks to listen to while working on something, and a special credit has to go out to T-Lopes, who made a lot of great music for this game, and to Hyper Potions, who did the main theme, Friends, which is for the opening little video that plays at the beginning of the game, and this is immediately one of my favorite songs in the series now. I really love it a lot, and I love the intro to this game, the animated intro like I have from Sonic CD, and the cool thing is this song, Friends, actually shows up in Sonic the Hedgehog, the movie. The soundtrack has a lot of great tunes, so if you're interested, like, I really recommend listening to the soundtrack. It's incredible. Is it like my favorite soundtrack in the series? No, that's probably Adventure Sonic CD Japanese, but it's definitely in my top 5, and I really, really recommend you go out there and listen to it, because there's a lot of really good stuff. This section admittedly will be pretty fast, and it's not really a pun either. Mania, to me, is honestly just a near-perfect game. I just think it does a lot right, but it admittedly still does have its flaws. Admittedly, one issue I do have with Mania is I do think some of the levels do kind of drag on a bit, and those levels are kind of more Oil Ocean Zone, because with Oil Ocean Zone, you're running through all these levels, and it just feels like it never wants to end. You're running through these submarines, and you're just trying to get rid of ghost stuff, and while it's not a bad level, it's probably the weakest one in the game because of how much it drags on, but the king of levels dragging on is the final level of Titanic, Monarch Zone, which in the original version of the game, you would likely die due to a timeout due to just how long this level is. And you can, as you play it, you're going to get faster and faster with the levels. It's just a natural thing, but you're going to die at Titanic Monarch. Because in the original version of the game, when you would go to the final Eggman fight, you would just get a timeout because you would usually use the time up. And because Eggman's final boss is slow, that's just going to happen. Thankfully, since we've got it updated now, as soon as you get to the final Eggman fight, it's going to restart the timer, so that does help out a lot, so you won't die in Titanic Monarch. But it's still a very, very long and lengthy level, because there's multiple sections you got to do for it, and it's a fun level, it's just, it's so long, and that's an issue I think Sonic 3 and Knuckles had as well, with something like a Marble Garden Zone. Another point I have to bring up with the game, though, regarding that, is I do think I wish more so that Sonic Mania followed more like modern platformers today, say like a Rayman Legends, for example. I really wish Mania just dropped the live system. I get why it's here, but it's more of an annoyance than something I feel adds to the game. And I'm not going to go on the whole spiel talking about the live system, it's for another day, but I don't like it. And I do think, while this is a classic game, we're obviously going based off nostalgia for other classic Sonic games, I don't think the live system really fits in. I'm fine with having a time system because it shows you how fast you're going, and that's kind of the point about Sonic, but the live system adds nothing, and it's more of an annoyance when you get a game over for things potentially that aren't your fault, or it could be your fault depending on how good you are at the game, but still, it can be quite annoying. Another issue, I guess, bouncing off of that as well, is the boss fights for this game, I think, is where this game definitely isn't the best. And while I like the hard-boiled heavies as villains, I think they're cool, and the boss fight ideas are cool, I don't think the boss fights and execution work well. So take, for example, the Studiopolis fight. I like the idea of running on a road chasing an enemy, but I find that fight so annoying depending on who you're playing as. So let's take Knuckles, for example, who has a very small jump. He's going to have a very difficult time jumping over the robot's attacks. Meanwhile, if you're playing as Tails, Tails is going to have an easier time with it. And that's part of Knuckles being a difficulty curve for the game, or not the curve, being more of the more difficult option, but that fight's still annoying where there are times I swear I jump past a robot's, like, attack, and it still counts as me getting hit. And I don't like that fight. I think a lot of the fights are more annoying and drag on than anything, and there's no better example of this than the Mirage Saloon Act 1 boss, which is a lot like Sky Chase, where you're fighting this giant caterpillar, and I don't ever really know where to hit this thing at, and there are times I swear I hit it correctly, and it'll still just attack me. Mania is a good game, but I swear there are some boss fights that are just so annoying, like the caterpillar fight, the giant Metal Sonic fight that plays like Doomsday Zone, or not Doomsday, it plays like the Death Egg Zone, and I feel like I'm constantly hitting it, or I just get stuck, and I just go through the floor, or something like that, and the game kind of hurts you, and that causes you to get game overs, and I know I'm rambling here, but that is quite annoying. And if it wasn't for stuff like that, Mania, to me, would be the perfect Sonic game, because it does so much right. It's just the boss fights suck. Obviously, too, this is probably a cliche point that everyone I feel like brings up, is I do wish Mania had more original levels, because while I love the levels, such as the Chemical Plants on Act 2 and stuff like that, I wish it had more stuff like Studiopolis and Press Garden, because I love the new levels so much. Press Garden is one of my favorite levels in the game, because I love the music and I love the setting of, like, this old, like, newspaper plant stuff. It's really cool, and Studiopolis is great, and I wish the game had more, and I hope if we ever get a Sonic Mania 2, we're going to get new levels, because that's where I think this team who made Mania shines, because they've made a lot of fan games that are great with original stuff, and I want to see them take that and run with it in a future game. Sonic Mania is one of my favorite Sonic games of all time, and I think I can rest easy in saying that it's one of the best made Sonic games of all time. Does it have negatives? Yes. And while it still does, though, this game just does so much right, and whether that be from how it controls in terms of the physics, or the speed, or the fun level design, the music, this game just nails so many things right, in my opinion. And to me, even 4 years since it came out, I still think Sonic Mania is probably my favorite 2D Sonic game now, and I say that in a hard way, because I love Sonic 2 and 3 a lot, Sonic 1 not so much, but I love this game. It is probably one of the most replayed games I have in the past 10 years. I play through Mania at least twice a year, and I always have a fun time playing it. It never wears out its welcome for me, and it just, like I brought up earlier, it just does so much right. It has so much charm, and the music is great. It is a big thing for me. I listen to music at least once a month, because I love the soundtrack, just for background noise, and I love playing through it. I love playing as Sonic and Tails and Knuckles, and I love that brought Mighty and Ray back, and this game, to me, I think means so much because I admittedly, around 2017, was getting very burned out with the Sonic series, and a lot of that is due to Sonic Boom and Lost World, but even though I don't like Forces, Mania still, to me, proves that we can still get really great Sonic games. And it's still very fun. If I'm going to play a Sonic game, I'm going to just play Mania now, or Sonic 2. I love this game, and like I brought up earlier, 4 years later, Sonic Mania is still a great time, and it's a game that I see myself playing as I get older and older and older. It's just an absolutely fantastic game, and I cannot wait, hopefully, fingers crossed, for the inevitable Sonic Mania 2, or whatever they're going to call it. I can't wait. I love Sonic Mania, and I know I'm rambling, but this game is fantastic, and if you ever played Sonic Mania, I highly recommend playing it. It's just a great game, so I love it. I hope you all enjoyed. Let me know in the comments what you think about Sonic Mania. Do you love this game as well? Do you not like it? What do you want to see from Sonic Mania 2? I don't know. I thank you all for listening to this random ramble of me talking about Sonic Mania 4 years from now. Once again, thank you all for watching, and have a great day.